Hey,
welcome to week 18 of Rise, the podcast. It's the weekly podcast that really intends to bring some positive change to the world. The podcast that defends the small business owner, creativity, new ideas, problem solving, independent critical thinking, finding a new path and a way forward with some passion. And of course, if you're an entrepreneur, a little blood, sweat, and tears to make it happen. Each week we feature great guests who are making a difference in the planet, making an impact. And whether it's how we do business, leading at work, making communities stronger, eradicating poverty or touting abundance, or new ways to heal, be healthy, or empowering our youth to be all they can be, or learning from our elders. The show is a journey of ideas, solutions, and new thinking that has us create a vision for where and who we want to be. And our guest today is an old friend. Actually, I was thinking, Tom, the first time I ever did a radio show on my own at CKDO in Durham, you were on the very first show.
I remember.
And now here you are. You're back.
It was like picking up coffee and driving in a car, and it was like a whole odyssey into a new world of a new medium, radio. Oh, okay, let's try radio, Davey. Let's do it.
Yeah, in the sticks of North Oshawa. That was a fun. I met you at the subway, and we did pick up coffee. So I'm going to read your bio. Tom St. Louis solves a lot of problems for his law firm clients. He decided referrals are the most important marketing priority, and he dived deep and cracked the code, as it were. Tom started out with lawyers in the 90s as a Yellow Pages guy. He created some audacious ads that pulled cases like crazy just before and then during the early days of Google's ascent to market dominance. He found his niche, though, and that seemed that he seemed to resonate with personal injury lawyers, and he threw himself at their marketing problems. He figured out a few things which can help a lot. Tom's also a musician, a dad, right? You're a proud father, an excellent copywriter, a teacher, and has a brilliant mind, and is a critical thinker and a friend, as you heard at the top. Tom, welcome. Good morning.
Hey there, David.
Nice to see you. So this thing called like this pandemic has kind of thrown a spanner in the works, right, for how entrepreneurs are doing business. All of a sudden, that in-person trade show, personal sales calls, events, conferences, networking, all just went beep, and it's all now happening online. And it's left entrepreneurs reeling and having to totally reconfigure their business and marketing. With that being said, what are some of the surefire marketing tactics that we can still deploy and get good results?
It depends vastly on your category. If you were a dentist, you would, you just have to say, well, we have wonderful protection, and then just hammer on the reactivations and referrals, right? You just keep people talking, keep your network charged. But then there's a lot of business, if it's always dependent on one-on-one meetings and others are not comfortable meeting, then you have to retool and you have to refigure. The biggest point that I could make is, for the first time in history, there's something that's happening that may turn out to have been unacceptable after courts have their way with it, and that's what I think. And I do think that people should kind of stand up and be heard on this. But the government does not have the right to lock us down. That's what you do to a prison population. So the fact that the fact that a lot of people uncritically accepted the premise of being locked down for our good, and the government saying, you must be tested, you don't know if you're healthy or not, that fundamentally changed the relationship between government and the person, and between person and doctor. And so the government no longer was the house that sort of kept the streets safe, and you could go and pursue your freedom and your expression and your prosperity and your wealth. Now the government can say, well, if we declare an emergency, all bets are off and we can shut you down, but we'll send you money. So the idea, that old value of independence is seriously in question. You're independent if the government says so. You're independent if, at the government's pleasure, they are going to, allow you your rights come from the government. The government has suspended your rights, which the government obviously owns. And none of this is true. None of this is constitutional. None of this is related to the great English law, tradition going back to Magna Carta. So something is up, which is more serious than anything. And a lot of people are just playing along, thinking we can comply ourselves eventually back to freedom. And well, that's a really big problem for business. For my business, I used to fly out to see law firms in the United States, and that's what I like to do. I happen to like visiting law firms, spending 2 or 3 or 4 very intensive days, meeting everyone, sort of falling in love with an organization. That's an extraordinary organization, because that's the only way they can hire me, to be honest. I mean, it's really only an extraordinary organization run by a great leader that ever got to where they would hear about me and they would want to use my ideas. So for me, that's been great. And working over Zoom, it's not my idea of the best way of doing things, but it's a way to adapt in the interim. And I'm looking at other things, to be quite frank. I'm looking at other ways to do business and make money, or other ways I can sell insight, thought, distinctions, positioning.
Yeah.
So it's not a very businessy answer, but I have to say, lockdowns, that's a political emergency that supersedes the basic question of putting up a shingle and selling your wares. That's like civilizational survival. Are we going to survive as free individuals? Are we going to fight for our rights? Are we going to stand up and push back? Or are we just going to be ground under to where the government tells us whether we can sit, shit, anything, and give us money? Because if they've taken away everything, they have to give you money. It's a way to get everyone on guaranteed income. Anyway, so I didn't come here to talk politics, but there's no way not to say business is not normal when the government claims to be able to lock you down.
Yeah, and I've kind of maintained my business pretty well. What I feel is, I don't know what to call it. I'm going to call it a bit of a malaise. And the malaise is about not being as active, not getting up and getting dressed and dressed up. I don't have to, right? I can walk around, I can, just work in my pajamas if I want.
Right.
And I'm just, I feel that as a business owner, I'm not as sharp and as, on it and professional. Now, that being said, I've adapted, thank God for Zoom, because it's got my business running. But, I'm missing that human contact, and going to an event or seeing people or having a hug. And it does get to you. And then that malaise takes over. And it's like, yeah, but I don't even have to go out. And so there's that lack of zeal and zest that you have when you go out and you meet people.
Yeah. Well, everyone's depressed.
Yeah.
Everyone is a prisoner. Everyone is in a state of profound cognitive dissonance because they can't believe what their little birdie is whispering to them. Don't be paranoid. Don't be a conspiracy theorist. This is we're all in this together. It's to flatten the curve, and to admit to yourself, no, this is a totalitarian attempt to enslave us. Oh, don't be paranoid. Oh, are you a... So the question of mental independence and clear observational ability, deductive logic, things like that, those are really important if you're going to be a problem solver, if you're going to be a consultant. And to be half this and half that. The Chinese model is we can control creativity. We can control people's lives. And we can unleash a little creativity in this controlled chamber and still enslave the people. Good luck with that. We reached the level of creativity where now we can just stand on everyone's head and squeeze out the creativity from these slightly free people. If you look at the freedom that made America America, it's a pretty radical level of freedom considered in all history, and a radical level of success, and a radical level of expression, innovation, development, dynamism. Take away the freedom, what do you got? So that's a very, very basic question for business. A business owner, an independent person, or are they, a cog that just got their own cubicle off-site? But it's up to you what you want to sell, if you want to sell, if you want to continue, if you want to stop, if you're discouraged. Because in business, a lot of times people overcame a lot of obstacles to succeed. And now we're all facing this obstacle where the world has gone mad and there's no chance of it being unmad anytime soon. And now there's apartheid and invasions and incursions into people's medical privacy. And you can't even go to a place unless you violate your own medical freedom, which is in violate. And what is this law? There's no law. When did Parliament pass this?
So with all this being said, and I agree with you.
And I didn't come on to be a downer, but I think we have to come on and talk straight about what's really happening.
Dude, we have to call out the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel some days, you know, like I don't even get out, you know, because I'm in at home working and, you know, my 9 to 5, whereas before, you know, at least I could go out and see people and have a meeting or have a coffee or whatever. And it's way more challenging. And then when I'm home working, I feel I'm not as, again, it's not that I'm not sharp, but I'm not as sharp.
Uh-huh.
And I feel isolated, and then I get into my own head. You know, it's like the fears, the worries, the doubts come up, right? But when I'm out and I see, oh, there's cars, there's people, there's things happening. Oh, okay, then you know, it's not that bad. Whatever. It's not.
Remember Jean Chrétien used to say, "You see the crane there, and you know the people are the people of Canada are doing something. The crane." But he was right at the time. Look at all those cranes. Building buildings. Things are happening. There's an economy. People are buying and selling stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Regarding the entrepreneur, I remember back far enough when people would lose their corporate job and would try to work from home. And they'd get up in the morning, right on time, and they'd have their coffee and they'd put on their suit and they'd go sit at their desk. Really? Because they thought that was what was required. And then some smart rats with a little more, it doesn't matter. I can do this in the nude. And if you have the right vocal tone, who's to know? With video, you know, you got to put a lot of people get the green screen and they get some kind of a fake, you know, like I got the fake Thousand Island Love Shack background there.
Yeah.
But the ability to get up and focus on what you focused on was something that seemed to be in deep peril. About maybe 2.5 decades ago, I think, the story was flow. A state of deep focus is something that it takes an hour to get to, and if it's interrupted, it takes 45 minutes to get back to. The internet will destroy human civilization by these constant incursions into our focus. And then the way song videos were edited, right? Cut, 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 cut. Low attention span, constantly moving. So that was one vector was moving in that direction. The other direction was people said, oh, kids won't be able to read because they're doing everything by text. And then 20 years later, boy, can they read. Boy, can they sniff the subtext of a tiny string of words, right? So they're very good readers. They're not very good tome readers. They're not very good readers of War and Peace, but they're very good readers of little tiny messages. And the independence that people didn't have, now they have, so that when the quote unquote alleged pandemic happened, people went and worked at home and did better from home without the commuting, without all that fuss. So a lot of people are better from home, and nobody would have thought that was true 30 years ago. Pardon me. So it's tricky to go back to something that wasn't what you thought if people really can work better from home. And some people may need that stimulation, and that too becomes, I think it becomes a bit of a choice. I think, you know, you go to the supermarket and do you wear a mask or not? I don't. Because even though it might be a hassle and might upset someone's mind, I'm here to represent the possibility that a person could be free to think their own thoughts, you know, and say, hey, I don't do this. And so then you become stuck in little parcels of people who think like you, and there's that exclusion factor. And there's just so many people. I go to the supermarket, there's just person after person after person wearing that thing, and I'm like, it's amazing. Like, as a persuasion accomplishment, you get to find out there's something going on in the world, and there's certain parties that have had a remarkable success creating unanimity in media and in big tech and in government. Well, that's cool. How the hell do you do business within that? Person to person, you know, one transaction at a time. Of course, it vastly depends on your business. If the government's put you out of business and you literally have to wait for them to lift a mandate, you either defy the government and take your lumps or go to court, or else you wait and go under, which many, many thousands of businesses have done.
So what are you seeing in your practice, with the clients you work with? How are they handling this? What are you encouraging them to embrace as far as reconfiguring their marketing plans?
I haven't been involved in the reconfiguring in the light of OVID-K. I haven't had that job to do. But what the sector that I work in is American personal injury lawyers, and they're all adroit business owners. They have to be, because it's an incredibly intensive and competitive field, and they have to catch a case and take care of that person and bring them through to a settlement and get the money and do all the administration and the hiring and all that. So I deal with wizards, people who are incredible entrepreneurs. And I just, like you said in the intro, I just looked at this one little thing and said, they're spending $5,000 a case, or $10,000, $6,000, $4,000. They're spending a lot of case. They spend money on advertisements, TV, on clicks, on chat boxes. That's a licensed service, and they can catch cases, lead generation services. And what they don't realize is any one of their clients could bring 5 clients. And what it's the trickiest thing to convey is to a law firm is to say, there are people who are nowhere as good at the law as you, nowhere as good as client service, and they get a hell of a lot more referrals than you. Isn't that crazy? People who don't even like you might refer you. It's a matter of what comes to mind. So what I'm doing for them is when they have some time and attention, I'm helping them on their how to do referrals, how to thank referrals, how to talk about referrals, analyzing where they come from, where they could come from. I'm doing an interesting positioning project with a financial dude, which I haven't done. I used to work with financial dudes a long time ago, but they need help in a similar way. And my dance card is not full now because I can't go there, and I'm reluctant to work on Zoom, to be honest. So I pick, okay, I'll do something, but it's not going to be a full workup. It's going to be, let's work on this one little area here and get that going, and then maybe later. So the whole thing is compromised at the moment.
Yeah. You love the notion of positioning. For that newbie entrepreneur, what do they need to know about positioning? Or as I like to say, position. Quoting Fiddler on the Roof song there.
Yeah. Trout and Reese wrote a great book called The 22 Immutable Laws of Positioning. Wasn't that what it was called? Or 22 Immutable Laws?
Trout and Rise, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was positioning, no?
Yeah, that's position. Their book could be summed up as follows. The best thing to do is to be in a category which you're alone in. So I happen to be the world's foremost expert on referral generation for the personal injury law space. Without a doubt. Like, I absolutely own that position. And it's possible to position yourself so that you own a position, to be the only one in the world who does that. And it makes sense to do so. Excluding is better than including when you're positioning. It's better to exclude than to try to beat everything to everybody. There's a store in Toronto, you might know it. It's at Pape and Mortimer. Maybe it's called the Everything Store.
Okay.
Just remember the first meeting. What are we going to sell? We'll sell everything. Whoa, no one's thought of it. It's a little corner store, the Everything Store. Okay. What was your question?
Positioning. You love positioning. So for a newbie, what do they need to know about it?
Okay.
You've already said something.
Yeah, it's how to position it so that I'll give you the best when I learned positioning. When I was about 6 years old, my sister was a little more than 10 years older than me, and it was in Quebec. So she was in grade 11. And they got a yearbook. And I found it fascinating, especially back in the 60s, because every young person had to act so masterly and wise. They were 17 years old, and it was like each person was trying to act like they had the weariness of carrying the world of wisdom on their back at such a young age. They're in their yearbook statement, they'd say, come one, come all, this rock shall fly from its firm base as soon as I, if you have the determination, nothing consists. Oh, thank you, wise young one. But I was 6 years old, right? And I'm looking at these sort of paragons of virtue and progressiveness and confidence and athletic excellence, and reading all this stuff, and it's so cool. And there's this one guy in my sister's grade, and you had the pet peeve, you had the possible future probable destination, nicknames, things like that. So under pet peeve, this guy wrote, people hassling me when I don't win. And that said so much about that guy. He looked like the guy, the man, the dude, big man on campus. He was an athlete and he was involved in sports. He was also academically excellent. So from that phrase, I got a lot. He is a popular guy. He is successful in sports. He tends to win a lot, but he doesn't only win. He's not that obnoxious. And on those occasions when he doesn't win, people needle him because he usually wins, and he kind of puts up with it. But he's a good-natured guy, and he's accessible enough to kid him. He's not like some god, but he does win a lot, and it bugs him a tiny bit. Anyway, so I carried all that in my head for many years, and then it was grade 11, and I was in the position to fill up my thing and to say what my probable destination was and my pet peeve and all that sort of thing. And there was a guy in our class called Pierre, and he wasn't particularly an athlete or anything, really. He was just a guy, nice guy. And in his response to pet peeve, he wrote, "People hassling me when I don't win." And I thought, isn't that strange? He must have had a sister or something. Like, where did he come up with that? And how weird for him to try to pass himself off as the big man on campus, as the person who normally wins, as some kind of star athlete, when I know the guy and he's not any of that. And then I went, wait a second, how do I know that the first guy didn't do the same thing that this guy here did? Make me believe something with just a phrase. Focus my mind in such a certain way that I perceive a thing in the chosen way and hold it to be that with absolutely no evidence that it's that. Heinz, it's not Heinz. Oh, it's not Heinz. That's a positioning statement, right? A project that I did in positioning was for eminent domain law company, a law firm. And their very, very basic premise is the government from time to time will condemn a property, and they have the right to do so, and they have to pay just compensation. And just compensation is what somebody thinks is just. So it's a negotiation. And the government sends out appraisers and negotiators, and they make offers, and people take the offers. And the people who don't take the offers, if they conduct their affairs in a certain kind of a way, they might get $300,000 or $400,000 more than the other folks who got 150,000 or 200, like that. And so I got some numbers, and I talked to some people, and I worked it out where I called it the second check technique. So the positioning was very simple. Are you going to go with just the one check system or the two check system? Oh, well, what's the two check system? Well, some people accept what the government tells them, and some people accept that with the proviso that they can go for more. Then they get with a law firm that's an expert in eminent domain. The first check is 100% theirs, whatever they can negotiate. And the second check is based on the expertise of a comprehensive market evaluation of your property, taking into account these 72 factors that the government is not taking into account because they're not trying to get the maximum for their property. They're trying to pay the minimum just compensation so they can condemn this thing and put in an abutment or whatever. And so that positioning was basically, are you an idiot or are you going to deal with us? There's just no two choices. So positioning can be pretty stark that way. And a way to answer the question is, we're the only ones who. If you have a really good answer to we're the only ones who, then you could be said to have positioning in the market.
And what's the distinction between positioning and then a niche market? Because are they not, they're similar. There's some.
Yeah, I think I would say positioning is the manner by which you express or convey a niche.
There's a woman in sort of the west end of Toronto, DuPont and Davenport or whatever, and Tina Vera, and she has a company called Health Salon Health Yoga, but she trademarked yoga for round bodies. So she teaches yoga.
What kind of bodies?
Round bodies.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, so plus size women.
Right.
And now she's the darling of plus size women's issues and self-esteem, mental health, fashion, and she's really grown that practice
crazy
really nicely. Really nice. Now, you mentioned referrals. You're also big on having in place a referral strategy. What does that look like? Because with lawyers, they can't, reward their, clients for giving them a referral. They can't.
They can't.
They can?
They cannot. Well, they have bar associations, and the thing of the law is funny because there's lawyers who find a way around certain things because they're lawyers, right? And then there's lawyers who are very compliant with bar association rules, but there's certain things that are just no-nos. It used to be advertising was a no-no.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to be very dignified and you let people come and chase you. And all that changed with a big court victory, allowing lawyers to on a First Amendment basis, communicate. Pardon me. But with lawyers, what you'll find is that they make certain mental errors that a lot of people can make. If you're doing bulk weight, if you're doing thousands of cases and you own a company that's doing thousands of cases, and the cases are worth thousands of dollars in compensation to you, and the cases also involve thousands of dollars in expenses and prosecuting them, so you have to manage your money, and you have to manage administration and hiring and client nurture and client relations, and it's a heck of a lot. And so they'll easily fall into mistaken thought. The biggest mistaken thought is, my dad was in business for 28 years and he never had to market. Okay. We got everything by referral, and if you take good care of people, they'll take good care of you. And that's the secret of referrals there. Okay. Well, a person could believe that, and they would be totally wrong. They would be empirically, provably dead wrong when you come into a situation like personal injury law, because in personal injury law, a person may bring in 10 referrals. A person may bring in 15 referrals. What is it? The person who got the nicest hello from the receptionist? Probably not. So to answer your question, every business has its own unique dynamics where you have to understand referrals. So you talked about rewarding referrals. Some people say, I'll pay you 10% commission on every business you bring. And there's some people who are motivated by that. And then there's some other people who are not motivated by that. And then what do? Do you give somebody cash? Do you give somebody a card? Do you give somebody a catalog? Do you give somebody a tchotchke? Or do you give something a really warm card and some really wonderful thanks? How do you manage the relationship? It's really what it comes down to. And because law firms are dealing with these scales and these budgets, if you're able to say, hey, the average person knows 200 people who knows 200 people who knows 200 people, and the average person who calls a law firm from an ad is a totally disconnected person. It's a person who's not part of the mainstream. It's a person who doesn't have an Uncle Eddie who knows the guy, right? So you're starting a new loop. And what I like to say to these lawyers is, you can pay all this money for a case, and then you can keep on paying money for all this case. But what if you pay all this money for a case, and then you don't just take on this person, you take on their now, you take on their future, and you take on their social circle? How can you catch the case in a way that implicates the social circle of this person? Just waving at somebody out there. How can you catch the whole person? How can you catch their future? And how can you catch their family? Because the saddest thing that happens that I see is a law firm takes a case, they do a good job because they're a good law firm, then 2 years goes by, and that same person is now involved in a really serious wreck, and they go with somebody else. They don't do it like, oh, I hate you guys, so I'm going to go with these guys. It's not like that. It's sort of like, well, gee, what am I going to do now? Oh, let me just see what's out there. Oh, look at that's interesting. Oh, you click that. Oh, yeah. Oh, geez. Oh, okay. Let's chat. Sure. Oh, well, I was in an accident. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. Boom. Somebody else has retained them. Somebody else caught them, and it's like a grease shoot to the retainer being signed. So for a law firm, referrals comes down to managing the relationship. It's managing the linguistics. There's some really, really big no-nos. Like if you say to somebody, here's the worst referral script in the world, and it's almost universal. It feels like this. Oh, and if you're ever talking to somebody who's injured and needs a lawyer, give them my card. Or, oh, and hey, if you ever bump into somebody who's injured and needs a lawyer, have them call me, okay? That's not effective. You know what else isn't effective? And let me see if I can take you through a very, very, very quick little mental exercise to make fun of a goofy idea, so that it'll go from sounding intelligent to sounding really stupid in 30 seconds, okay? Top of mind, right? I mean, what could be better than being top of mind? Why do we stay in touch with them? To remain top of mind. Why do we send a letter? Why do we send a brochure? Why do we send a card? Why do we keep on doing that? Because we want to remain top of mind, right? I mean, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
No.
No,
Of course not.
okay.
Because you have decided to chat with me, okay? And I'm enjoying our chat.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here looking at this screen, but you see my lovely place. There's so many things I could look at and do. There's so many, right, things I could focus on. But I have an agreement or an undertaking that I'm going to focus on you, and I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to direct my thoughts cooperatively to what you're asking about, and we're going to have this interchange, and hopefully it'll be useful for somebody else and at least enjoyable for us.
Yeah.
In the court, there's all these numbers. The people think 6,000 thoughts a day, and they think the same 4,080, thoughts over and over again. Who the hell knows? you're bombarded with 3,000 advertising messages a day. Now it's 12,000, it's 24,000, now it's 1 a second, now it's 4 a second. You have a choice of what to focus on. When I do a presentation before a lawyer group, I like to start by saying, who can name the second cutest girl in your grade 2 class? And they have to go, who's the cutest? Who's the second cutest?
Beth Hubley.
Hey,
Beth Hubley.
you see? And they come with a Beth Hubley. Where is she now? Where is that wonderful Beth Hubley, right? And it's a little demonstration of what your brain can do. Because your brain can remember a heck of a lot of stuff if it is of a mind to, so to speak. And there's a process, there's a process that you tilt your head this way and you go, oh yeah, right? So the idea of staying top of mind, when there are literally trillions of bits of information you could choose to focus on, choose to ignore, not think about, come back to mind. Beth Hubley, you may have never thought of her again in your life, but for that question. And now that I've brought her up and you sort of initialized her, who knows, there might be some Beth Hubley that's going to come up in funny little ways in your life, because that's the reticular activation system, how it works. So no, there's no such thing as staying top of mind. It's the dumbest idea. It's impossible, and it's not something to aspire to, because if you have the basicest understanding that here you are with your 2 little eyes and your little brain in this gigantic complex universe in which there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of references available in every second. Like we can go from here to Beth Hubley, and we can go from here to Expo 67. I bet you went with your family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you go on the Flume?
Yep.
Did you get splashed by the Flume?
Yep.
Was it a sunny day? There's so many things you could think of. What about you want to keep the Flume top of mind?
Yeah,
Let's do some
or Habitat, that weird building.
Yeah, let's take Flumes and make them top of mind. How are we going to make Flumes top of mind? Dude, you're never going to make it in the top of mind. But what you can do is trigger a thought. So what would trigger a person's willingness to refer? What is the activity called referring? And this is the biggest shift. So number 1, you can't be top of mind. And number 2, referrals is not about you. Chris Rock has a great, excuse me, I'm going to smoke my cigar. Can I speak a little frankly? Okay. So Chris Rock is a very, very brilliant, funny comedian, right? Not only has he got insights, but he says things in a way that's really hilarious. So he's talking about when men are polite to women, they're offering dick. If he says, how do you do, lady? How's it going today? Fine weather we're having. Would you like some dick? Oh, here, let me help you with it. Would you like some dick? What if all that, according to Chris, is offering dick. Well, the way that lawyers and the way that service providers and hard-charging business growers, they sound like Chris Rock's depiction of a guy offering dick when they're talking about referrals. They're just saying, give me cases. I like cases. Give me money. Give me more money. I like money. Give me more. And it's almost like, that thing that in small business groups, they act as though they're doing something really naughty by promoting. Oh, shameless self-promotion. Oh, I'm going to be greedy, gutsy, and I'm going to go. No, actually, you're the service business. If somebody has a need, you're committed to fulfilling it. There's nothing greedy or sneaky or audacious about the fact that you stand for what you offer, which you're confident delivers a benefit, right? So these lawyers get confused by this notion that I've given you, now it's time for me to get. Or a law firm will say, oh, we can't talk referrals at the beginning of the case because we haven't proven ourselves yet. So we're under an audition and we have to deliver first, and then maybe we can ask for a referral. Completely incorrect, because the person who doesn't even like you, who you bungle their case, they could give you 3 or 4 referrals halfway through the case, right? So you're not in the business of trying to qualify yourself to those people. You're in the business of creating a powerful positioning where you're the expert and you lead them through a process to the result they want, which you are capable of doing, and you do. So when it comes time to talk about referrals is not about you and it's not about getting. It's the fact that you took that person who is lost and lonely and scared, and you gave them assurances, and you were consistent with your commitment to provide service to them. You offered them that protection. You got them that settlement. And wherever you are in the case, you might be past all that, you might be in the midst of all that, but that's what you represent. And you want them to know that now that you've You weren't connected. You had to come through an ad. All that was scary. But now that we've got you here, now that our team is working with you to make sure that the insurance company gets pushed right on back and you get the compensation that's just, that's fair for your injury, let's make sure that the people also have that protection. Whenever, do you notice I didn't say if? Whenever somebody is injured and they need a lawyer, let's make sure they're looked after, okay? You'll do that? Yeah, okay. Now there's a number of psychological principles at play there, but chief among them is I'm a value provider and I'm offering value to you, which you're receiving. And now I want to make sure that your sister isn't a statistic, because so many people in the circumstances that you were in made the wrong call or didn't make a call. And now they're up the creek without a paddle.
Yeah.
And we don't want that to happen to anyone else. So let's make sure that they are protected. Referrals is offering protection and value and benefit to the social circle of a person you're bonded with who knows the value of what you have to offer. Write that down. That's it right there.
All
right
right.
there. That was it. That was it.
That was it. Last kind of question. What's your take then on so we know about referrals, but the idea too of bundling your services, selling more products or services, do you want fries with that? Getting clients to come and buy more often. So referrals, we've talked about bundling and selling more products and services, and then come more often. Just doing these three things alone can totally have amazing bottom line results, no?
True. Right. The dental business is based on that repeat. Let's lock you in let's get a cleaning every 3 months. Pardon me. I know a guy or knew a guy in Yorkville, and I think he was doing maybe $700,000 a year in cleaning. So we have these presentable, lovely young people. They're getting a nice hourly wage, and he was getting a huge markup for that once every 3 month cleaning. So Jay Abraham always said there's 3 ways to grow business. Number 1, get more clients, which everyone thinks about and talks about, get more customers. Number 2, increase your average transaction size. You call that bundling. Merchandising. If the transaction was $72 and you made $14 profit, if you get up to $85 and it's $18 of profit, you're adding profit per transaction, and that's what we want to do. And then increase frequency of transaction. Those are the 3 bigs, aside from acquiring assets. So to increase frequency, that makes sense for certain services. For certain things, it doesn't make sense. Bundling, adding value, do you want fries with that? That goes to understanding the value you deliver, right? And if you're to take take a financial guy, they go, oh yeah, I do RESPs. Oh sure, I do universal life. Oh yeah, no, I do mutual funds. Oh sure, no, I also do that now. Okay. So then the question is, do all your clients know all the stuff you have to offer? Well, I give them this brochure when they sign up with me. And then the brochure lists 5 services. So they deem themselves to have delivered the messaging representing the value by virtue of having look, I've given you I've given you the brochure and it's all written here. So I've delivered the message. But have you? Do your clients
have you asked?
Right. So what are their perceptions with respect to the value that you offer in these 5 areas? Find out. So that's where it makes sense to talk to people and find out. And then the question is, well, how do I get it across to them? Because I can do all 5 of these things, and people think of me only as that one thing. How can I sell and add more? The Bank of Montreal told me. I had a meeting with the president of the Bank of Montreal once because I wrote an audacious letter and I got in to see the president. I didn't quite know how to follow it up, but they told me an interesting thing. They said, if we have 3 accounts with somebody, we got them. So if I have somebody's credit card and I have their checking account, and if I can bump them up to a 3rd thing, then I'm going to get all their business, right? So with that in mind, would you not drop your drawers on the 3rd service just to get it in the door to lock up the account for the long term? And then when they need a business loan next year, obviously, because they've been locked in, it's going to be a very profitable transaction when they're right there already dealing with you, ready to deal with you for everything. So yeah, so you can upsell and say, do you want fries with that? You can also do an evaluation of all the benefits you can offer. You can package it up, and you would package it up with that marketing arithmetic in mind, which is to say, I'm going to sell it in such a way that I'm locking in a long-term value. I'm creating momentum. I'm creating loyalty. I'm locking in profit, yes, and I'm offering services, and I'm creating a relationship and where they're going to see me as the go-to guy for the whole category. That's a pretty general answer. We'd have to do it on a business by business basis, but I hope that's at least partway an answer.
Yeah, and I just really, you got to really take time to educate your client, and teach. It's not good enough to say, yeah, here are the benefits, here's the value, which is important. You got to communicate your value, but you also have to teach. Hey, this is how you can use it. This is where this might help you, right?
Yeah.
This is going to help you get these results. So when you're ready, let's discuss it, because they might not be in the market for, I don't know, a business loan right away. However, when it comes time to buy, if you've taught them already about some of the ins and outs of things they need to know about a business loan, so they don't get hammered on interest,
right.
At least they have an understanding, and they have a confidence in you, so that when it does come time to get one, they're going to call you, right?
There's conscious and there's subconscious, okay? And I've always preferred the indirect communication, because you can do the direct communication. That's great. Like you say, copywriting. Copywriting is direct communication, but it's direct communication to the subconscious mind, because you can't think of everything all at once, and you can never be top of mind, and that's an illusion you have to lose. And so you're talking to the whole mind, and you're triggering perceptions and things like that. So 30 years ago, I thought of marketing as communicating value. I had a great definition, but basically it's telling people what's good about what you have to offer, how it will benefit them, right? Communicating a selling message.
Exactly.
But I evolved my understanding of marketing to where it was more programming behavior and programming perception. So with positioning programs perception. And a referral program, for example, if an employee, let's just say there's an employee who says, oh, they're doing a referral promo, it's really tacky and weird, and they're doing this weird shit, Like I had a client, and the guy did a Super Bowl ad every year, and he wasn't afraid of being a little outrageous. So we're doing a referral acknowledgement program, saying, let's catch your employees referring. They do refer, despite themselves. And if we treat it a different way, suddenly in their mind, in their individual subconscious mind, in their group mind, they're going to hold this thing very differently, and the activity and the behavior will change, right? So somebody accidentally sends in a case, and then they bring this, what was that thing called? A shark, hammerhead shark. And they did a weird, in restaurants when they do that weird happy birthday so as not to violate the copyright of those old ladies, and every restaurant does their lame version of it. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. So they did some goofy thing where they bring in a hammerhead shark and they humiliate that employee. And they have the employee, oh, great. Oh, geez, I'm not the right person to tell you. Don't think that chick doesn't get another referral by Friday to get humiliated all over again. Don't think everybody doesn't see that and go, dang, I'd like to be humiliated like that. Don't be thinking that the boss, he comes down onto the floor and says, Charlene, how did you do that? How do you know that person? Way to go. And he just a little pat, something like an attaboy. That programs perceptions. It programs the subconscious mind, because referraling is not going to be top of mind, Davey. It's in the depths of the mind, it's triggered. So marketing is planting triggers and programming perception and programming behavior. And then suddenly everyone is noticing these referral opportunities that they would have sworn were not there yesterday. The same way that a person learns a new word and says, I'm seeing that new word everywhere. I can't believe I'd never seen it before. Well, dude, it was there. It really was there. And all those referrals that you don't see are there. And you're never going to directly, consciously persuade anyone of that fact, but you can create conditions in which they're triggered to notice and triggered to take action. And that's the most advanced marketing that I know of. And it's what I develop with lawyers by being very, very focused in that little space.
We're with Tom St. Louis at his home office in Brockville, Ontario. Where do we reach you to learn more? And, I don't want to do this.
I'm Googleable.
Okay.
I'm Googleable. If you Google me, I'll be really honored. I'll feel it too. Someone's Googling me right now.
Ooh.
But if you're a lawyer and you want to get referrals, I'm your man. And
Okay. And you have a website with that too?
Yes, I have a website. It tells the story. It's at Smart Lawyer Marketing, right? And it tells the story of hold on, you have to say hi to Angela.
Hey Angela, welcome.
She's wearing the funny hat, so I had to show her. What were we talking about? Google.
Oh, just where we get a hold of you.
Right, Smart Lawyer Marketing. It tells the story. I tell the story about some of my adventures and things like that.
We're going to have you back because there's way more I want to talk about. So I want to thank you for this today.
Thank you, Davey.
Yeah. Again, that was Tom St. Louis. He joined us from his home office in Brockville. Thanks for watching and listening. It's our last show of the year. Thanks for being part of Rise, the podcast. Our goal is to inspire individuals like you to rise up. Let's get our entrepreneurial mojo back.
The Lorraine Segato.
Yeah, man. And inspire or impact.
Lori
Be
Conger
socially
wrote it.
aware and continue that entrepreneurial spirit to make life in the world a little bit better. We're going to take a little bit of a holiday break. We'll be back in mid-January. We're going to retool the show and a new look as well. So we'll see you in mid-January. Until then, have a happy new year and a good remainder of the holidays. Thank you so much for being here with us, everybody. Tom, a joy, man. Nice to have you back.
Power to the entrepreneur, man.
You got it.
Rise up, take power. Lori Conger wrote that one.
Yeah.